the barber who cuts hair for the homeless. In a bustling city where the rhythm of life is dictated by the rush of feet and the honking of horns, there lived a barber named Samuel. His shop was nestled between a bakery filled with the scent of fresh bread and a flower stall that painted the sidewalk with bursts of color. The city was alive with opportunity and ambition, but it was also a place where many fell through the cracks, their stories lost in the shuffle of everyday life. Samuel had not always been a barber. In his youth, he had dreamed of being an artist. His mother, a seamstress with nimble fingers and a kind heart, taught him to see the beauty in people, to notice the lines of laughter around their eyes, the way their shoulders slumped or squared, and the untold stories hidden behind tired smiles. Life, however, has a way of nudging dreams into different shapes. When Samuel's father fell ill, he set aside his paintbrushes and apprenticed at his uncle's barbershop to support his family. Over the years, Samuel discovered that cutting hair was not so different from art. Each person was a canvas, and every cut was a transformation. He loved the quiet trust of it, the way people would close their eyes and let him work, confiding their worries and joys, their hopes and heartbreaks. For Samuel, the barbershop was more than a place of business. It was a sanctuary, a space where people emerged not just looking better, but feeling lighter. One rainy afternoon, as Samuel was sweeping hair from the floor, he glanced out the window and noticed a man sitting on the curb, huddled beneath a thin coat. His hair was tangled and matted, his beard wild and unruly. Passers-by barely noticed him, stepping around him as though he were invisible. Something about the man's posture, the way he stared at the puddles as if searching for a reflection, moved Samuel. He remembered his mother's words, "Everyone has a story, Samuel. Sometimes they just need someone to listen." Samuel stepped outside, umbrella in hand, and approached the man. "Hey there," he said gently, "would you like to come in and warm up? Maybe get a haircut?" Quote. The man looked up, startled. His eyes were wary, but there was a flicker of hope. After a moment's hesitation, he nodded. Samuel guided him inside, offered him a cup of hot tea, and draped the familiar cape around his shoulders. As the scissors snipped and the razor hummed, the man began to talk. His name was John, and he had once been a carpenter. Life had been good, until a series of misfortunes, lost work, a broken marriage, an injury, had left him without a home. Samuel listened, offering no judgment, only the steady comfort of his presence. When the haircut was finished, John stared at his reflection for a long time, as if reacquainting himself with someone he thought he had lost. Tears welled in his eyes. "Thank you," he whispered, voice trembling. "I almost forgot what it felt like to be seen." That evening, as Samuel closed up shop, he couldn't shake the feeling that he could do more. There were so many like John, men and women who had become invisible to the world, their dignity eroded by hardship. Samuel made a decision. Every Sunday, when the shop was usually closed, he would offer free haircuts to anyone who needed them, no questions asked. Word spread quickly. The first Sunday, only a handful of people showed up, some shy, some embarrassed, some grateful beyond words. Samuel greeted each one with the same warmth, the same respect. He learned their names and their stories: Maria, who had fled an abusive home; Thomas, a veteran haunted by memories of war; Lily, a young woman who had aged beyond her years on the streets. As Samuel worked, the barbershop filled with laughter and conversation. For a few hours, it became a place of belonging. With each passing week, more people came, not just for haircuts, but for the sense of community that blossomed within those four walls. Volunteers from the neighborhood bakery brought pastries and coffee. The florist donated flowers to brighten the space. Local musicians stopped by to play a song or two. What began as a simple act of kindness grew into a movement, a ripple of compassion that spread through the city. One Sunday, a young boy named Kevin wandered in, shy and uncertain. His mother, Sarah, had lost her job, and they had been sleeping in a shelter. Kevin's hair was long and unkempt, and he hid behind it like a curtain. Samuel knelt beside him, smiling warmly. "Would you like a superhero haircut?" he asked. Kevin nodded, a small smile breaking through. As Samuel worked, He told Kevin stories of heroes and adventurers, of people who faced challenges and found their courage. When the haircut was done, Kevin looked in the mirror and stood a little taller. "I look like a new person," he exclaimed. "You always were," Samuel replied. "Sometimes, we just need a little help to see it." The barber shop became a beacon, a place where hope was restored one snip at a time. Samuel never asked for payment. Instead, he accepted thank yous, hugs, and sometimes just a grateful glance. People began to donate supplies, shampoo, razors, clean towels. Some offered their own skills. A retired nurse provided basic checkups, a teacher tutored children, a counselor offered a listening ear. But not everyone understood. Some of Samuel's regular customers questioned his choices. "Why waste your time on them?" One man scoffed. "It's not like a haircut will change their lives." Samuel smiled, undeterred. Sometimes, a small kindness can be the first step to something bigger. We never know the impact of seeing someone, truly seeing them. And indeed, the impact was profound. John, the first man Samuel had helped, found steady work at a construction site after regaining his confidence. Maria enrolled in night classes and dreamed of becoming a nurse. Kevin and his mother found housing, and Kevin started school, his head held high. Samuel's story began to spread beyond the neighborhood. Local newspapers wrote articles about the Barber of Hope. A television crew filmed a segment, capturing Samuel's gentle hands and the transformative power of his work. But for Samuel, the real reward was in the quiet moments, the way someone's eyes would light up when they saw themselves anew, the laughter that filled the shop, the friendships that blossomed among strangers. One winter evening, as snow dusted the city streets, a woman entered the shop, her cheeks flushed with cold. She carried a small notebook and introduced herself as Emily, a writer working on a book about kindness. She had heard about Samuel and wanted to know his secret. Samuel thought for a moment, then said, "There's no secret. I just try to remember that everyone matters. We all want to be seen, to be valued. Sometimes, a haircut is just a haircut. But sometimes, it's a chance to remind someone that they're not alone, that they're worthy of care." Emily smiled and scribbled in her notebook, "You make it sound so simple." Samuel shrugged. "Maybe it is. Kindness doesn't have to be complicated. It just has to be given, freely and without expectation." As the years passed, Samuel's hair turned silver and his hands grew slower, but his spirit never waned. The barber shop remained a sanctuary, not just for the homeless, but for anyone who needed a place to belong. Samuel trained young barbers, teaching them not just the art of cutting hair, but the deeper art of listening, of seeing, of caring. One of his apprentices, a young woman named Jasmine, asked him one day, "How do you keep doing this, Samuel? Doesn't it get tiring, carrying so many stories?" Quote, Samuel smiled, eyes crinkling at the corners. "It can be heavy, yes. But it's also a gift. Every story is a thread, and together they create a tapestry of hope. When we help others, we help ourselves. We remember what it means to be human." Jasmine nodded, understanding. She watched as Samuel greeted a new guest, his voice gentle and welcoming. She saw the way the person's shoulders relaxed, the way the lines of worry softened. She realized that Samuel was not just cutting hair, he was restoring dignity, piece by piece. The barbershop's walls were covered with photographs, smiling faces, before and after shots, handwritten notes of gratitude. Each one told a story, a testament to the ripple effect of kindness. The city, once indifferent, had begun to change. Other businesses joined in, offering meals, shelter, and support. The invisible became visible, the forgotten remembered. One spring, the city honored Samuel with a community award. Standing before a crowd of neighbors, friends, and former strangers, Samuel spoke simply, "This is not just my story. It's ours. Every act of kindness matters. Every person matters. Together, we can create a city where no one is invisible." As the applause echoed, Samuel looked out and saw John, Maria, Kevin, and so many others whose lives had been touched. They stood together, not as recipients of charity, but as part of a family, a community built on compassion. The true legacy of the barber who cut hair for the homeless was not measured in awards or headlines, but in the countless lives he had transformed. He reminded the world that dignity is a right, not a privilege, and that sometimes, the simplest acts, offering a haircut, a smile, a listening ear, can heal wounds deeper than we imagine. Years later, when Samuel retired, Jasmine took over the shop. She kept his traditions alive, her hands steady and her heart open. The barber shop continued to welcome all who needed it, a living testament to the power of kindness. And so, in a city that never slept, where stories flickered like streetlights in the night, the legend of the barber who cut hair for the homeless lived on. His legacy was not in the hair he had styled, but in the hope he had restored, one person at a time. The lesson Samuel left behind was clear and profound. We cannot always fix the world's problems. We cannot always erase pain or hardship, but we can offer kindness. We can see each other. We can remind one another that we matter, that we are not alone. In doing so, we create ripples that spread far beyond what we can see, touching lives and changing the world in ways both small and immeasurable. And so, whenever a passing stranger caught their reflection in the barbershop window, they might pause and remember, within those simple walls, hope was given a home, and every person, regardless of fortune or fate, was welcomed, valued, and seen.